I like this diagram because what it does is it illustrates the 5 core patterns. We have 2 types of motive waves. We have the impulse wave over here to the left. We have the diagonal, the ending diagonal to the right. Those are our 2 types of motive wave formations. And then we have our corrective wave structures, the zigzag, the flat, and of course the triangle. And again, today we're going to be discussing the triangle. Okay, so let's dive into it. We're going to start with the basic contracting triangle, and that is this. This is what it looks like. Waves A, B, C, D, and E. Now, you'll see right here a little bit of a notation in parenthesis that is 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. What this means is that each of the subwaves of the pattern, wave A, is going to be a 3-wave move. Wave B is going to be a 3-wave move. Wave C is going to be a 3-wave move, as is wave D and wave E. Okay, now specifically, each wave of a triangle must subdivide into a zigzag. Hold on, that's not correct. How did that happen? Hold on here. Each wave of a triangle must subdivide into a zigzag. That would be an ABC formation, essentially a 5-3-5 formation. So whenever we're looking at wave A, waves A, B, C, D, and E, think zigzag. Think 5-3-5. Okay, so this 3-wave structure here, say for example wave A, that's going to be wave A, and this is going to be wave B, and so we're going to be wave C. Now, the variation you could throw on top of this would be a double zigzag, in which case this would be W, X, and Y. Now, within a triangle, you cannot have one of the primary waves subdivide into a flat correction. Okay, so wave A, if wave A is a zigzag, look at wave B and you go, okay, hey, wave B is a flat correction. It's not a triangle. Okay, each wave of a triangle must be a zigzag and or a variation thereof, which is again nothing but a fancy way of saying a double zigzag. Okay, so those are the building blocks of a triangle. Now, if you are working, say, a zigzag in wave B, and you have, say, for example, wave, and this is, I'm doing a smaller diagram here for wave B. Okay, so we have wave A up, and then we have, say, an expanded flat. Okay, an expanded flat in the wave B position. This is okay. Okay, this works because the larger structure is still a zigzag. So 5-3-5. It's still a zigzag, but we do have a small expanded flat here in the wave B position. So that would be allowable. Okay. Another important, say, nuance of the triangle is that within the triangle, one wave tends to be a little bit more, say, beefy or a little bit more complex, a little bit more, say, difficult to discern than the other waves. So, for example, you'll see just a single zigzag in wave A, a single zigzag in wave B, and then oftentimes, typically, it's going to be wave C. Wave C will unfold as a double zigzag. So you come in with a WXY wave count, and then you have waves D and E, and those would be ABC and then ABC. Now, what I've observed over the many years of counting waves, that if wave C is not the complex wave, then it's going to be wave B. If wave B is not the complex wave, then it's going to be wave A. It is okay if wave D or wave E wants to be a complex wave, but I tend to start off looking for that complex wave in the wave C position, then in the wave B position, and then in the, say, wave A position. Now, also, too, triangles are tricky or slippery little suckers. And what I mean by that is wave E can sometimes form a smaller triangle. So you would have waves A, B, C, D, and then another smaller triangle in the wave E segment. That's also possible. So this is the basic construction. Fairly easy pattern to discern on a chart because you'll see prices, move up or move down, and then they just kind of like they just kind of like freeze. They just go sideways. There's no upward movement. There's no downward movement. And also too, of course, you have the AC and the BD, the converging trend line. So it's an easy pattern to actually discern. What else can I share with you? Let me see some tricky points, and we're going to be looking at some examples before we start looking at variations next. I want to talk about some of the say challenges of a triangle. Probably the biggest challenge is myself included, and I always include myself. So when I'm talking about you, I'm throwing myself in the same pot. Okay, and what I mean by that is sometimes I get in a hurry. And one of the biggest problems when identifying a triangle is by the time you identify the triangle, it's around, say, maybe this portion, wave C, or possibly in wave D. And then you're really in a hurry for the pattern to complete. You get in a rush, okay? That's one of the biggest problems whenever you're identifying or labeling or writing the waves of a triangle in real time, is there's a tendency, subconscious probably at best, where you want to rush the wave count and call the termination of wave E done before it actually is. So the next time you see a triangle and you think wave E is indeed complete, give it just a couple of days before you go crazy, just to make sure, okay? Also, too, whenever we're working with a triangle, we sometimes forget about its placement on more than one occasion. And probably the most recent occurrence of this was, I think it was in a price chart of Starbucks several years ago. We sometimes forget that when we're working a triangle, that triangles can sometimes pop up in the wave B position or as an X wave in other types of corrective structures. So on more than one occasion, I'll be looking at a triangle and looking for that wave E to bottom. And then what happens is we start moving up and I get all excited because wave E is done. And then what happens is we come down, boom, like that, and fall below the extreme of wave C and then the extreme of wave A. And then we reverse higher. And it turns out in retrospect that the pattern you're actually looking at is A, triangle B, and then that's followed by a C. So keep that in mind. Now, there are some rules that we want to adhere to when it comes to the development of a triangle, and it's important to remember this is a rule. A triangle may not form by itself except in the 4, B, or X wave position. So you cannot, like within an impulsive structure, go 1 up, triangle wave 2, then 3, 4, 5. Okay, you can't do that. Now you can do 1 up, A down, triangle BC. You can do that, but you cannot have, say, for example, wave 2, a triangle represent the entirety of a second wave. Also, too, the kind of the rule of thumb is it's important to remember that a triangle always precedes the final move of a sequence. So this is why we find triangles in wave 4. This is why we find triangles in wave B. And this is why we see the formation of triangles in the X wave position of complex corrections, because the next move is the final move of a sequence. So when you see a triangle taking shape in a particular market, it's basically the market's way of saying, hey, you've got one more last hurrah, and then the party's over.